morning, class. This is Monday, March 30th. We're going to do a review lesson for government. So take your notes out. Make sure you're taking notes because as soon as you are done with this lesson, you'll need to go over and take your quiz. All the questions for the quiz will be from this PowerPoint. It's a little bit of a review, but pay attention, take good notes. Talking about state and local government today. Roman number one, state government. Here we have the state seal for Indiana, the state seal for Illinois. Of course, all of you live in either Indiana or Illinois. Indiana State Capitol Building is in Indianapolis. This building houses the Indiana General Assembly, the office of the Governor of Indiana, and also the Supreme Court for Indiana. This building was completed in 1888, took 8 years, $1.8 million to build. If you live in the state of Indiana, this is the Capitol Building. Of course, it looks similar to our Capitol Building, or modeled after our Capitol Building in Washington. Next, Illinois State Capitol Building looks very similar. It also houses the executive and legislative branches of the Illinois state government. Building was completed in the same year, 1888, but the Illinois Capitol Building took 20 years, $4.5 million to build, as opposed to Indiana's 8 years, $1.8 million to build. And this is located in Springfield, Illinois, which is the capital city of the state of Illinois. Letter A, state constitutions. State constitutions. All states have a constitution that governs the affairs of the state, much like our U.S. Constitution does nationally. So just like we have a constitution for our national government, the United States, each state has their own constitution that governs the affairs of the specific state. Every state has a constitution. The state constitution, number 2, the state constitution determines the structure and financing for that state. So letter A is state constitutions. Number 1, all states have a constitution that governs the affairs of the state, much like our U.S. Constitution does nationally. And number 2, the state constitution determines the structure and financing for that state. This is a picture of the original Constitution of the state of Indiana. Indiana has had 2 different constitutions. The first one written in 1816, second one written in 1851, which supersedes it. And this is a picture of the 1851 Constitution for the state of Indiana. Picture of the Constitution for the state of Illinois. There's been 4 different constitutions for the state of Illinois. The 4th, which is the most current one, is from 1970. This is the Constitution for the state of Illinois. That was the last one that was written in 1970. Okay, number 3, the average state constitution is 4 times as long as the U.S. Constitution, is more specific and heavily amended. Of course, we have 50 states in the country, and the United States Constitution is more general, applies to the whole country, but the state constitutions are more specific, and so that being said, they are on average 4 times as long than our United States Constitution, and is heavily amended. So they're much longer, they're very much more specific to the different needs of our 50 states. Obviously, all 50 states have much different needs, and so it's more specific to each state. So we have a couple pictures, a couple graphs. So on this map, the darker the state, the longer the word count, state constitution length in word count. So we see Alabama, Texas, California, Colorado, Missouri, etc. have much longer state constitutions than, say, Utah or Montana. Indiana's pretty short. But this is the darker the color, the longer the state constitution is. Keep in mind that even on average, it is 4 times as long as the United States Constitution. This graph shows state constitutions with the most references to God. So North Carolina and Massachusetts each have over 10 references to God in their state constitutions. Massachusetts with 12, it has the most. North Carolina has 10. Of course, if you see on this graph, North Carolina is one of the smaller constitutions in length, but yet references God 10 times. Texas has a lot, Maine, Maryland, Vermont, South Dakota, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio. The least, Wyoming only has one, Washington only has one. California, even though it's a very long constitution, only has 2 references to God. So that's just some extra information there. Letter B, state government offices. Letter B, state government offices. Number 1, the governors. Governors. All states, just like all states have constitutions, all states have governors. Every state in our union has a governor. Gubernatorial terms are 4 years in every single state, Commonwealth, and Territory, except New Hampshire and Vermont, which have a 2-year term. So for 48 of our states, the gubernatorial terms, which is the term for the governmental term, for the governor, is called the gubernatorial. The gubernatorial term are 4 years, so they're modeled after our national executive branch, being the president. Presidential terms are 4 years. Gubernatorial terms are also 4 years. In every state, or in 48 of the states, but in New Hampshire and Vermont, they're only 2 years in length. The terms are only 2 years, so when you get elected, your term is only 2 years long, as opposed to the other 48 states, it is 4 years long. So obviously, all states have different, these rules are based on their constitutions. Because all states have different constitutions, they all have different rules for how they are governed. And so 48 of the states decided to have a 4-year term, and 2 states currently have the 2-year term. So letter B, state government offices. Governors, number 1, all states have governors, and they're called gubernatorial terms. And 48 of the states, the gubernatorial terms are 4 years in length, and New Hampshire and Vermont are the 2 states which only have 2-year term length. Okay, this is the governor of Indiana, Eric Holcomb. He has been the governor of Indiana since 2017, after Mike Pence, who was our former governor, left to become the vice president. And of course, all of our governors have been in the news a lot recently because the governors run the executive branch for the state. They will put into different actions, executive orders, as they're called, for each individual state. So Eric Holcomb put the executive order to close down the schools till May 1st. Of course, we have J.B. Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois. He became the governor in 2019. And of course, he's been in the news a lot lately as well. He put the executive order for everyone in the state of Illinois to shelter in place, to have to stay at home, and to shut down all non-essential things. So the governors, all 50 of the governors, they run the executive branch, and so all these different orders that are statewide, the governors will execute those orders, and they'll have, it's called executive order, they run that part of it. So Eric Holcomb, he's the governor of Indiana, and J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois. Okay, letter C. Letter C, governor elections are done in a 2-part format. So elections are done in a 2-part format. Primaries, each political party selects a candidate. The general election is done by popular vote, so not like our national executive election for the president. The general election, so primaries is the same. Each political party will have a candidate, and they'll run against each other in the general election. But the general election is done by popular vote, not by the Electoral College. So if one more person in the state of Indiana votes for one candidate versus the other, then that person with the most votes will become the governor. So elections for governors are called gubernatorial elections. That's the term for it. And let's see. Here we have a picture of the different, each state, different, what kind of governor they have, different party governors, whether Democratic governor or Republican governor. The red is the Republicans, 27 current Republican governors, 23 current Democratic governors, so pretty evenly split. But let's go over it again. Two-part format for the governor elections. You have the primaries. Each political party will have a candidate. The general election, which is done by a popular vote, which is different than our national election. And these elections for governors are called gubernatorial elections as they run. So that is your lesson for today. As soon as you are done with this, go over and take your quiz for March 30th, Monday, March 30th for government class. Thank you.